work as a janitor at a small hospital in my city. My shift starts at 10 at night and ends at 6 in the morning. Most nights are quiet, just cleaning empty rooms and washing the floors. One night around 2 a.m., I was mopping the third floor hallway. That floor is used for long-term patients, and at that time almost everyone is asleep. The lights there are dim, and the air always smells like medicine. As I reached the end of the hall, I noticed that the light in room 312 was on. That room had been empty since a patient passed away there about 2 weeks earlier. I remember because I had cleaned it the night he died. At first, I thought maybe a nurse had gone inside, but when I looked through the small window in the door, I saw a man standing by the bed. He was tall, wearing a hospital gown, and facing the wall. I knocked and asked, "Sir, do you need help?" He didn't move. I opened the door halfway and said again, "Sir?" The smell inside was strong, like disinfectant and something metallic. The man was gone. The curtain near the window was still moving, as if someone had brushed past it. I pulled it aside, but no one was there. The window was locked from the inside. When I turned back toward the bed, I froze. It was now perfectly made, the sheet smooth, the pillow straight. I had seen it earlier, messy and half covered with dust. I slowly backed out of the room, turned off the light and shut the door. For the rest of my shift, I stayed downstairs. The next day, I asked the security guard to check the hallway camera. At the time I entered the room, the screen went fuzzy for about 15 seconds. When it came back, it showed me stepping backward into the hallway alone. After that night, I never went near room 312 again. A week later, the hospital sealed it for repairs. No one ever said what they found inside. In 2022, I worked at a big warehouse on the edge of town. I was one of 4 people who worked the night shift. From midnight until 6, my job was simple scan boxes, stack them on pallets, and keep the machines running. Most nights were boring. The loudest sound was the conveyor belt and the beeping of forklifts. One night around 3 a.m., I noticed a single box coming down the belt. Even though the line had been stopped for almost an hour, it was plain brown, no barcode or label, just a message written in black marker, "Do not open." I laughed a little and asked on the radio if someone was playing a joke. Everyone said no. The box stopped right in front of me. A minute later, I heard something move inside a light scratching noise. I thought maybe an animal had crawled in, so I leaned closer. The scratching stopped. Then the power went out. Everything went black except the red emergency lights. I stood still, waiting for my eyes to adjust. I could still hear the conveyor belt moving a little, even though it shouldn't have. Then I heard the box tip over. Something small hit the floor and slid behind a shelf. I turned on my phone flashlight, but there was nothing there. The box was now open and completely empty. When the power came back, I looked around again. On the floor, next to the shelf, was a long scratch mark, as if something with claws had dragged itself away. I told the supervisor the next morning, and he checked the camera. The video froze the moment the power went out and came back 1 minute later, but for 2 frames, there was something dark and low to the ground right behind me. 2 weeks later, they replaced that section of the floor. Nobody told us why. I quit that job a month after. Even now, I hate being in warehouses at night. In 2019, I worked as the night receptionist at a small roadside motel, only 12 rooms, most of them empty during the week. I was alone from midnight to 8 a.m., watching the front desk, answering calls, and checking in guests who came late. One rainy night around 1:30, a woman came in. She looked tired and nervous, wearing a long brown coat and holding her purse tight. She said her car broke down nearby and she needed a room for the night. I gave her room 7, handed her the key, and she thanked me softly before walking down the hall. About half an hour later, I saw her pass the office window again, heading outside toward the parking lot. I called out, "Mom, are you okay?" She didn't answer, just kept walking until she disappeared around the corner. A few minutes later, I went to check room 7. The door was unlocked. Inside, the bed was perfectly made. The lights were off, and her key was lying on the table. There were no wet footprints, no bag, nothing. When I went back to the front desk, the phone started ringing. I answered and heard a woman whisper, "Can I get another towel, please? Room 7. My heart dropped. I said, "Room 7 isn't occupied." The line went silent. I hung up and stared at the security monitor. The hallway camera that faced room 7 was black. The system showed an error. The rest of the night I sat behind the counter, too scared to move. In the morning, the housekeeper came in and I told her what happened. Her face went pale. She said, "Room 7. That's the room where a woman died last year during a storm. Her car broke down near the highway. She never made it home." When I heard that, I decided it was my last night there. I still remember her voice on the phone, calm, polite, like she didn't know she was gone.